Nothing kills the vibe at a tournament more than a GameCube controller slamming on the hardwood floor. The room goes totally silent, everyone does that check their surroundings look, and while the Twitch chat can pog their hearts out, most of the time the crowd has no idea what the fuck to do. Today we'll be showcasing those unfortunate moments on stage that made everyone in the venue cringe when watching. We'll be talking everything from ruining the Club Nintendo controller on stage to the unfortunate biggest chokes of a player's career. Two honorable mentions go to two horrid Puff Icy sets, Foebro vs Chango and Michael 41 Billion vs Bananas, with both being covered already, one by our previous Beefs video and the latter by the fantastic channel that Melee Stats is. This is a cool video, but at the same time I pray every day for peace, and here's Allston Melee's 10 painful to watch SSBM tournament sets. Subscribe for weekly Melee top 10s, leave a comment for what you want to see next, and number 10, every set of Matt.Zeb losing ever. Matt.Zeb, a friend we deeply cherish, has funded Allston Melee's Twitch channel in ways unimaginable. If you, random viewer, ever want a free Twitch subscription to Allston Melee, you can just find Matt on the street and ask him, but being true to our coverage of painful sets, we must bring Matt.Zeb into the picture. To be clear, Matt has been a high-level threat at tournaments for a long time and remains so to this day. He beat Leffen that one time, he lost to Kage or something, he beat Leffen that one time. MDZ fills a weird niche being one of the few people who can go game 3 with one of your favorite top players and also your homie who is kinda good and goes 2-2 sometimes. The thing is though, neither player will be happy about getting hit with the inevitable Falco up B in neutral, and Matt has created his own share of highlights throughout his years of playing. But while both groups might lose to MDZ, if someone ends up pulling the W over Matt, no matter who it is, his reactions have always been the epitome of painful. Though most have been thankfully lost to time, some of these priceless displays of emotions will live on forever in GR Smash videos. MDZ's constant display of frustration takes a strong showing at our 10th spot. Number 9, Chris Best versus Net1234 at EVO 2016. When Chris Best and Net1234 stepped up to the EVO main stage, the feeling in the air was an astounding I don't give a shit. Chris Best, a somewhat decent Marth player hailing from the Twitch offices, was up against this dude, assumingly from Utah. Playing at a Marth Ditto, admittedly the only thing carrying the set's interest was the Scar and Blur commentary accompanying it. If you're somehow unaware of how painful the Marth Ditto can be, especially at the lower levels, this set embodies that feeling beautifully by showcasing how two cavemen barbarically swinging swords at each other would look like in a Melee tournament. If this exact set happened off stream, it would be in front of maybe one person, and they'd probably be the pool captain who is barely watching and is more just waiting for them to stop playing. But probably because of the commentators and Chris Best's Twitch affiliation, the set found its way to the main stage, and boy did it suck, but in the best ways possible. Scar and Blur do a great job at capitalizing on the more than shaky gameplay, and honestly deserve some big ups for driving the narrative on this one. After being tied in games, the last stock of Game 3 is nervous interaction after nervous interaction, conveyed by a screaming pair of commentators and a just as loud crowd. Chris Best would win maybe one of the worst sets to ever happen, and with an assist from Scar and Blur, the set would get only 20k less views than the grand finals at the same tournament. Number 8, HBOX vs aMSa at every summit. Okay, let's be real, a Hungrybox inclusion was obviously coming on this list, but to be fair, some of the HBOX vs aMSa sets aren't as painful as the others, with some endings being kind of almost worth the 35 minutes worth of Puff Yoshi you just sat and consumed. But aMSa and HBOX's tournament sets, which happen to frequent Smash Summit events, are forever bound to be a half an hour endeavor, putting the commentator's stamina to the test like the third verse on Look At Me Now. This is the easiest we can explain the way Hungrybox and aMSa play Yoshi Jigglypuff. No one wants to fucking hit each other until one of them can hit each other, but holy fuck are they down not to hit each other. Game 5 after Game 5 and timeout after timeout, HBOX and aMSa highlight a part of Melee that is rarely found, especially consistently on our big stages. Number 7, SILENTSPECTRE vs Wobbles at Mango Juice 09. Back when a major stream was based on if Homemade Waffles was attending or not, an event would be hosted with Mango as the branding, similar to the recent events but obviously in a much different time. After Wobbles pulled an upset over the Falco Legend forward, he He played against the current #1 player in NorCal and huge Falcon influence, SILENTSPECTRE. With the accompanying screams of a small hometown crowd being picked up on a laptop mic, the beginning of the first game was back and forth, but SILENTSPECTRE would start to pull ahead by Wobble's last stock. Wobbles, for his namesake, would find a wobble, pulling the game back to even, and then get kneed 4 times in a row, and then audibly smack his controller against the pavement floor before the announcer could say game. HMW and Phil would do a great job at breaking the tension and coach Wobbles into the second game, but it was worse. We also think Jeff won, Brandon. Number 6, SYROX versus YORT at CEO 2018. YORT plays Falco. YORT is pretty damn good at playing Falco. Coming from Georgia, in the summer of 2018, YORT took the 5th spot in his local PR, most recently getting 7th at MomoCon, beating people you don't know or care about. YORT's Snapple fact is that he's frequented the help and knowledge of the Falco Smashboards thread, which is still extremely active and moderated by PPMD to this day. We say all this to set up the player sitting next to him, which is Colorado and Randall's own, SYROX. While YORT was just being ranked top 5 in his region, SYROX had been strongly #1 in his home state for a hot minute, and by 2018, he was already a top 30 shoo-in compared to YORT, who is still unranked. And game 1 of their set would look exactly like all those good words I just said about SYROX. After counterpicking the stadium, YORT brought way more of a fight to the table. The gameplay shown would look clean, and after trading stocks to the last, both players would be at a high enough percent for one strong hit to take the game. SYROX would misread YORT's recovery, and after making it past the Fox Bears, would find his own to take the second game. While Game 3 had moments of Colorado's ability, it would be all YORT leading up to SYROX's last stock. After getting shy and upbeat, SYROX would take his hand off the controller and admit defeat, and YORT would win the set. And YORT would win the set. Oh. And then YORT would win the. Oh, wow. YORT having the strongest 2-stock lead possible on his best win to date, side beat off the stage twice, and we have no words to summarize pain like this. Number 5, SFAT versus HBOX at Press Start 2015. Did you really think there'd be only one HBOX set on this list? Of course not. It hurts a little to even think about now, but there was a time where SFAT and Hungrybox's sets looked exactly like how they look in SFAT's head. Somewhere along the journey, Big Bad HBOX huffed and puffed and blew NorCal down, but around 2015 and 2016, SFAT had some strong showings against Puff. While he hadn't taken a set off of HBOX yet, SFAT would be on the verge of getting the best chance he ever gotten, taking the first 2 games at Press Start 2015 almost dominantly. And then, Hungrybox stood up. On the stage select screen, Hungrybox advanced past the need for a metal chair, sprung up like a kid getting dropped stage diving, and hunched over the CRT like the second stage of human evolution. And of course, because every Melee storyline has to be as dramatic as fucking possible, it worked flawlessly. Now, standing in front of a CRT is a power move of power moves. While being one of the most annoying things you could possibly do in a competitive set, it shows sheer confidence, a bit of psychopathic tendencies, and commitment to take anything way too fucking seriously. But standing in front of a CRT after someone else is already standing in front of a CRT is what cowards do. And for a brief moment at the end of Game 5, SFAT cowered to Hungrybox. HBOX would bring back the 2-stock deficit, win the game, and scream very loudly while continuing to assert his dominance over the middle chair that brought him pain. Fuck that chair. Number 4, Mango vs M2K at Fight Pit 4. Fight Pit 4 Winners Finals started out pretty normal. Then everyone got kicked out of the venue after Game 1. While M2K and Mango played out the rest of the Winners Finals set, everyone would be kicked out of the venue except the commentators, the players themselves, and the staff trying to kick out the players. Mewtwo King and Mango would be clearly a little shaken up by this and would admit so later, but would do a decent job at keeping their composure in game. After the Winners Finals set, Mango stands up but is immediately met with the news that Duck has DQ'd out of the tournament to allow the Grand Finals to even happen like a boss. Mango and M2K, in an extremely rare occurrence, played winners finals and grand finals back to back, and by the time grands happened, fatigue was starting to show. It's also worth noting that this tournament featured a 10-man round robin at the beginning of the one-day event, so the amount of tournament sets both players played was pretty wild. We're not sure the validity of the claims, but there was rumors of TOs having to convince the campus staff not to shut down the grand finals on the spot and threats of calling the police, but Mango and M2K were able to finish out the 13 games played in a row with a 3-0 win for Mango finishing it off. Mango and M2K set at Fight Pit, while definitely having its own share of lows gameplay-wise, takes a high spot on our list mostly for the shenanigans surrounding the players in the CRT. Number 3, Shine 2016 Top 3. Boston is our home, and New England is what we breathe, so when a major was announced in our stomping grounds and run by the people we consider very good friends, we really cannot explain to you in full how exciting of a feeling it was. After taking a round 1 loss to Nintendo and going on a 6-set run that included Hungrybox, Losers Mango was at it again and the kids in the crowd were yelling and screaming. On the winner side, SFAT had beaten Hungrybox, hey, remember that thing we talked about? In a set that had plenty of its own painful moments, featuring a 30-second coaching break between every single game, but good shit to SFAT. With the tournament being everything the crowd could ask for, Top 8 had already featured plenty of excitement leading into winners finals, M2K versus SFAT. It wasn't very close. SFAT had taken a game to prevent the 3-0, but the FD counterpick was pretty much exactly what you thought it would be. With SFAT not looking like very much of a challenge in grands, losers finals would continue with pretty sloppy gameplay, with game 1 being decided by SFAT daring off stage. While it was starting to look like a 3-0 for Mango, SFAT stole the third game, preventing getting 3-0'd yet again. And once again, we'd be in another 2 stocks to 1 situation for Mango to advance to grands, but through a back throw shine and reading the immediate jump, SFAT would clutch another game from a 0% Falco. With all of the momentum in the world that totally may or may not exist, SFAT played strong in Game 5, and a defeated Mango would quit out on the last stock. SFAT had just pulled off a monstrous reverse 3-0, but the crowd looked like this. Grand Finals of Shine 2016 would start out with SFAT looking like the Shine 2016 champion, but a persistent M2K pulled off a 3-stock comeback to completely stun SFAT's endorphins. Game 2 was then ended with a decent lead for M2K and a missed shortened side B, and Game 3, SFAT would counterpick Final Destination on the person who is a reason we talk about getting rid of Final Destination. Mewtwo King would look like this, and then 2 minutes later he'd look like this. M2K winning the event was a cool ending, but even he admitted that it felt a little weird not beating HBOX or Mango to do so, and both sets felt like such an anticlimactic end to the start of such a hot top 8. Number 2, Hugs vs CHUDAT at EVO 2016. Getting top 8 at a major is a huge accomplishment for any player. Going on stage, usually after a full day to rest, and being some of the only matches left in the tournament is an ego boost of ego boosts. With that said, competing for the previously mentioned opportunity is some of the most stress a player can experience, because at the end of the day, someone's gotta win this super important best of 3 set. Tied in games, Hugs 86 and CHUDAT would be playing for that sought after EVO 2015 top 8 slot, and in one of the only sets that could have also happened at EVO 2007. Finding a down smash on CHUDAT's last icy stock, the Nana would be out of the picture ASAP, and CHUDAT would have to fight out his final stock with no AI robot to help him wobble. All Hugs had to do was beat the 1 stock of the low tier in front of him. All he had to do to prevent getting yayezed on was hit this edge guard. Defeated, and with his head in his hands, Hugs would painfully shake CHUDAT's hand and look like a broken shell of a man, while the hand that just yayezed him was patronizingly patting his back. Fuck. In our number 1 painful to watch set, S2J vs ARMADA at Genesis 4. Genesis, Melee's favorite tournament. A screaming crowd is cheering S2J's name as he is up 2 games against ARMADA, who still has an undefeated streak going strong. If S2J is to win this game, he will become the first non-top 6 player to beat ARMADA since SILENTSPECTRE. And the parallels in the timelines of the Falcon players are more than relevant, with S2J being credited throughout a good chunk of his career of carrying the playstyle that SILENTSPECTRE embodied. But at Genesis 4, S2J was on the verge of 3-0ing the player who was ranked #1 a week before the tournament. With chance of one more stock echoing through a NorCal venue, S2J missed the knee that would have ended an undefeated streak, and Armada float cancel nared S2J to the pain of many members of the crowd. The excitement and the voices lost dwindled in the next 2 games, where everyone, including S2J, remembered how fucking good Armada is at this video game, and reality slowly started to kick in. Armada reverse 3-0'd S2J in a way that displayed the vicious punish game in full effect, whether the crowd wanted to see it or not. A couple Peach players, some Swedish kids, and a couple nerds online may find some sadistic pleasure in watching Armada rip the opportunity out of S2J's hand, but even Armada has reflected on how close it felt to an 0-3 loss and the acceptance of defeat for a brief moment. Heartbreaks and long played out dramatic finishes are what makes the crowd experience at a major feel like a cross between a dramatic play and 2 people beating the shit out of each other. The lows and downsides, no matter how painful or hard to get through, provide a helping hand in making the genuine hysteria and the chairlifting that comes after even more memorable.